Welcome to the HR Fix, the HR podcast for HR professionals who want to grow and be the best. I'm Judith, Fiddler, and I'll be your host. So come and join us on our journey as we change an entire industry. Come on, let's get started. One of the questions that I get asked when I go and visit groups of HR professionals, or I'm in my membership group, or the real questions that people want to know is, what makes a good HR professional and what makes a bad HR professional? And these are concepts that we look at in our boot camp. It's exactly what we cover. And we talk about good, how no one knows what good is. But I can tell immediately when someone's phoning me and asking me or my team or our help center or call center about problems. We can tell immediately how they are and what they are. And the difference is actually overwhelming. And it's what I'm calling the difference between victim and accountability. Those who phone up with a problem, who are taking accountability, I know are likely to be really good HR professionals. They understand the issues, they just want to fix them. They just don't know what the fix is, and they're looking for the solution. Those who phone up and say, well, it wasn't my fault, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that, or, it was a bad employee, a bad situation, a bad process, the policy doesn't help me, all those sorts of things, that is when you fall into victim mentality, and that is a huge problem for us. We talk a lot in HR about what we call system reliability. The longer the systems are that we create, the more likely there is going to be risk. What do we mean by that? We mean that most issues actually that we deal inside of our office and inside of our team will be dealt with inside of 2 weeks. It doesn't matter if it's a redundancy, a 2P, a welfare, a consultation process, whatever it is, usually will be dealt with inside of 2 weeks. Anything that's going to be longer than that means that you are opening the door to risk. In any case, anything that takes a long time has too many moving parts, especially in HR. We're dealing with humans. It's going to be the human mentality. You're opening the door for grievances, for delays, for sickness, for stress, for them to go and talk to other people, for damage to be done, for them to talk to your clients, to be talking to customers, to be gathering information against you so that they can get in first with a constructive dismissal, all these sorts of things. The longer it is, the more the emotions get drawn out, which means that positions become entrenched, which means that then it becomes a confrontation. So what was before a potential, we don't know that you're doing your job properly, we're going to be monitoring you, becomes how dare they're coming after me. They've never told me there's a problem before, which means it must be discrimination. These sorts of things change, and we have to understand mindset. And we have to understand employees' mindsets, but we also have to understand our own mindsets. But it's about this system reliability. Any system that we put in place, I'm talking about processes, HR processes, any system that we put in place brings with it risk. There is no such thing as a perfect system, a perfect process inside of HR. So we have to understand what mistakes are. And again, we're talking inside of our bootcamp about two sorts of mistakes. There's hanging offenses, and then there's don't sweat the small stuff. So don't sweat the small stuff is just something we don't bring risk, but we don't bring value. We're bringing embarrassment, usually to ourselves. We paid somebody the wrong amount of money. We just go and correct it. We give them the wrong amount of holiday. We go and correct it. We've done something. We go and correct it. It's not such an issue. It just makes us look bad, not them. And again, that's where victim versus accountability can come in. I'm sorry, I've done this. I'm going to correct it. Easy. It's an easy fix. Hanging offenses, on the other hand, are harder to deal with because they're things, once you've sacked someone, you've used the wrong reason, you haven't done an investigation, you haven't justified it properly. Those are the sorts of issues that we see all the time. Those are hanging offenses. That is something that you need to be holding your hands up to. And that is something that is a big problem, or can be a problem. That's why we call them hanging offenses. There are serious issues. You're inviting risk. There's a problem for an organization to deal with. And it's those sorts of situations where we see these two sorts of people. Are they going to be a victim, or are they taking accountability for their actions? Most problems, if they're brought early enough with the right mindset, with the right attitude, can be addressed. They can be fixed. I talk about this in other ones of these podcasts. But things like constructive dismissal can be addressed. Unfair dismissal can be addressed. And I don't mean by settlements. I don't mean by throwing money at things, but they can be addressed in a commercial way, in a smart way, and in a way that means we made a mistake and we're trying to put it right, in a legal way. It's not just, you need to know what you're doing and you need to know what the issues are, but you need to know how to defend a claim. But that's the sort of thing we're talking about. That's what we're talking about with this mindset shift and this ability to change what you're thinking. It's really interesting that my husband actually he teaches about all this sort of stuff as well. And he trains people, and he's trained all over the world. And he talks about communication is the responsibility of the communicator. And that means that if you're trying to get a message across to somebody and that message is not understood, it doesn't land properly, then that is the responsibility of the person who's speaking, who's trying to address that message, who's trying to give the message over. So you always have to check the message that you're giving. That's one of the things that he teaches and trains. And I found him the other day mumbling about something, and he was talking about a case that he's dealing with, and he was saying that a lawyer, a solicitor, and a barrister that he's dealing with don't understand the case. He said, I've been dealing with this for a year and a half, and they do not understand the case. And I'm like, but the responsibility to communicate is the responsibility of the communicator. And it's really interesting that he teaches this. He taught me these concepts. He invented a lot of these concepts, but we don't always remember them. We have to, in the moment, and when we're getting frustrated and when there's mistakes being made, we have to remember these principles, and we have to understand the difference between victim mentality and taking accountability. And it's really important which two sides of this coin that we choose. And have you ever seen I've got friends of mine who unfortunately have been divorced, and they've got now adult children. And two of those adult children, out of those small kids, two of those children have made it into a success. Two of those children have said, I don't want my kids to be going through what I went through. I came from a broken home, I came from an unstable background, and therefore I wanted different for my kids. It was my driver. It was what made me want to be better. It was what made me want to be the best, so that I can make sure that they're not going through this. But the other two are using it as an excuse. The other two are using it to play the victim, to say, well, it's not my fault. I was never going to be able to succeed because I have a victim mentality, because of my background, and you've got choices. And as HR professionals, we know mistakes get made. We know mistakes get made all the time. As I say, we call them hanging offenses and don't start the small stuff. But how we react to them, what we do, how we respond, and how we bring these to people's attention. Remember, most mistakes, when they come up early enough, we can do something about it. We can change them. We can correct them. Our job is to reduce risk and to bring value. That's not always possible, because sometimes there is risk. So how we approach these situations and our mindset in doing it, that's why mindset is such an important thing for us. That's why we've got our magazine. That's why we've got our movement. That's why we've got our membership. That's why we're doing whatever we're doing. All these things that we're doing is to bring a safe place that people can start strategizing, because we know that our mindset, how we approach these things, is literally everything to us. And that makes a difference to the outcome. It makes a difference to the risk. It makes a difference to our employer. It makes a difference to our employment, to how we are perceived, to whether people come to us with problems, to whether people like us, trust us, respect us, promote us, give us extra pay rises. All these things are relevant on how we look at things. We can't be a victim. We can't be. It's not our fault where we are, but we have to take responsibility. We have to take accountability. And we certainly have to take accountability for fixing it and bringing about value, and not wallowing in there being a risk. I hope that makes sense. I want you to put that into practice today, if you can, inside of your HR job. I want to wish you a happy day, and also happy HRing.